Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. I would like to bid to my beloved lecturer, Madam Rohana. I hope you are in the pink of health. Today, I am going to talk about the ethics in healthcare services. Health services management ethics encompass the myriad ethical issues virtually all of the directly or indirectly affect clinical services faced by the managers of organizations that deliver health services and the moral context in which these decisions are made. Health services managers plan, organize, control, direct, and staff health services organization (HSO) and lead, coordinate, and integrate their activities so that clinical care can be provided. In essence, by managing the HSO, managers provide the workshop and wherewithal that enable clients and patients to receive their services. These preventive, acute, restorative, and supportive services may be provided in and through a variety of organizational settings that include inpatient services, outpatient care, and home health services. The most intensive or acute services are provided to hospitalized inpatients. The least acute are provided in the home and in hospice, where the emphasis is comfort care and pain control. The types of health services management ethical issues that arise in the various settings are similar and run a gamut that includes macro-level resource allocations, conflict of interest, staffing levels, and providing the structure and support for patients and families as they decide whether to withhold or withdraw life-saving treatment. Every day, patients, families, healthcare professionals face ethical and legal decisions. These difficult dilemmas may concern medical treatments, practices, hospital management, and other matters that arise in the healthcare industry. Ethical issues in healthcare can require an immediate response, such as making decisions for patients when they are not able to do so, or can involve a prolonged, carefully considered decision, such as the debate over the right to abortion or assisted suicide. The actions taken in ethical issues in healthcare clearly distinguish between what is right and wrong, and often many of the actions taken today can have lasting effects on healthcare in the future. There are numerous ethical challenges clinical leaders, health practitioners, and patients face in healthcare. Some examples of common medical issues that I will discuss include conflict of interest, consent, staffing, and patient privacy and confidentiality. One of the key issues in managerial ethics are conflict of interest. Conflict of interest arises when someone has two sets of duty or obligations and meeting one set makes it impossible to meet the other. They embody the biblical admonition against serving two masters. Whether a conflict of interest is present is fact-dependent, and accurate determination requires careful scrutiny. The potential for a conflict of interest does not necessarily mean that there is a conflict of interest. It is useful to distinguish differing interests that might lead to conflicts of interest from actual conflicts of interest. Even when differing interests are present, it is possible to avoid conflict of interest, but the slope is slippery. Differing interests are present, for example, when an HSO manager has an ownership interest in a supplier that could service the HSO. If the manager approves a purchase from that supplier at higher than market prices, a conflict of interest has occurred. However, if the price is lower than available elsewhere, the different interests continue, but no conflict of interest has occurred. In fact, the better pricing is an advantage to the HSO. However, if the manager uses the position of authority to cover up inadequacies in the supplies being provided, the different interest has produced a conflict of interest. Next is about consent. Although it is commonly considered a purely clinical ethics issue, consent is an issue that should concern the HSO manager. If it is to operationalize the patient's autonomy, the HSO must assure itself that the patient has been adequately informed as to the services that are to be rendered under its auspice. The legal requirements is that the physician obtain the patient's consent after explaining the benefits, risks, and alternatives to the services that are to be rendered. However, the HSO should have policies and procedures that involve nursing or other appropriate clinical staff in ascertaining that the patient adequately understands what is happening. The manager is obliged to recognize that assuring the adequacy of consent is important. Establishing the means by which it can be done and providing the staffing will make it reality. Next, I will explain on staffing issue. Severe shortages of several health professionals plague HSOs. Registered nurses have received the most attention, although other health professionals such as pharmacists and imaging technologists have also attracted too few. In addition, it has been projected that the emphasis on primary care in the 1980s and 1990s will result in too few physicians in some procedure-based specialties in the 21st century. HSOs have responded to nursing shortage by reducing the ratio of registered nurses to other type of staff who provide direct care to patients and instituting tuition benefits program to encourage staff to enter nursing. Although health services managers and HSO trade associations assert that this shortage have not led to a diminution in quality of care, it stands to reason that doing more with less will eventually affect quality negatively, thus raising questions of beneficence and non-maleficence. Last but not least is about patient privacy and confidentiality. The protection of private patient information is one of the most important ethical and legal issues in the field of healthcare. Conversations between physician and a patient are strictly confidential as information about an individual's medical condition. Specific provisions of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act or HIPAA define exactly what information can be released and to whom. All in all, the rapid growth of the medical industry has created an increasing demand for skilled clinical leaders who understand the complexity and challenges of health systems, practices, and ethical issues. Healthcare ethics is a multifaceted and fundamentally important issue for the citizen of any society because the provision of healthcare is essential to the well-being of each person and the ways in which people are treated concerning their healthcare bears importantly on their health status.